What's new about diplomacy in the 21st century is that for the first time we have to now worry not only about foreign governments but also about foreign publics and the citizens of other countries. And so in the case of the United States, if it wants to influence another country, it's no longer enough to just lobby the government or try to influence the government. Even in countries that are not democracies, often public opinion does matter. And we saw that in Egypt with the revolution. We saw it even in Iran on a limited basis after the election of 2009. And so at least in the American case, what the American Foreign Service is trying to do is reach out now to the citizens, the public of other countries, even sometimes over the head of the government, if the government is not supportive of the United States, if the government is not a democratically elected government. And so that means using social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or other language-based foreign sites in various countries, because even if the government doesn't want to do something that the US wants to be done, that's not the end of it. You know, as a foreign country or a diplomat of a foreign country, you shouldn't despair. Wait a second, if the government doesn't want it, maybe the people of the country want it, and then you can have your own strategy, whether you go to the private sector or the NGO community or other non-profits or cultural organizations or directly to the people or the media. But you now have a way to do that and reach out directly to the people of that country, even if the government doesn't cooperate too much. Well, it's a tool. I see digitizing anything you might do in diplomacy as a tool of achieving ultimately your goal, which is not just cyber diplomacy or digital diplomacy is not an end of itself, a goal of itself. It's just a vehicle or a tool to achieve bigger goals. But clearly it can make a difference. And if you're using 20th century tools to achieve certain goals in the 21st century, it might not be sufficient just to use those old tools, but you might have to start, what do you call it, digitizing or using social media, or perhaps going out of the comfort zone of a diplomat, which is typically, talks behind closed doors. This is very different. I mean, traditional diplomacy was done, if not secretly, at least out of the public eye. Now we're talking about part of that diplomacy being done in the public eye. That's very different, and it's not natural for an old-style diplomat to do that. Well, people have different catchphrases, and some people talk about smart power or soft power, or diplomacy 2.0 or 3.0, whatever it is. But yeah, it's clearly these 21st century tools that come from technology and innovation. If used properly, and we have this word harnessed properly, in the name of achieving that ultimate goal. But you should have a goal. You can't just use Facebook just to use Facebook or to have some posts about something, right? Ultimately, if you want to achieve a result of an outcome, you should have a strategy in mind of how to achieve it. Well, because an army is a group of people, it's not necessarily people who have weapons. And in fact, the American Foreign Service doesn't carry weapons. Any foreign service doesn't carry weapons. But it has become a small army of 13,000 people, and it is being sent to the front lines in war zones like Iraq and Afghanistan. And it is, if you actually, there are many similarities between the US military and the Foreign Service, including the personnel system. Yes, the personnel system is very similar. There are clearly many differences because one, the military carries weapons and the Foreign Service doesn't. But when one thinks of government service and working towards his or her country's interests, national interests, or foreign policy in another country, whether it's through military or civilian means, as is the case in diplomacy, you do end up, at least in my mind, being an army.
Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.